I should say. This is today, so 2 peaks at the end, and indeed that long plateau linking it of around about 120 kilometres. As you can see, the gap is 5 minutes and 48. If you have found us here on Eurosport 2, I have to tell you that the tennis match that was holding up proceedings has just ended, and as a result we are going to make the transfer, the leap over to Eurosport International in just a few moments time. As you can see on the split screen, it's Orica Greenedge and Sky that are doing the chasing today, and that is to be expected. The 2 favourites starting off this morning, Michael Matthews for Orica Greenedge, ably assisted by the likes of Albacini, Simon Gerrans and the Yates brothers, and of course Ben Swift, third on the Milan San Remo, who is going very strongly for Sky. Mixed, or in the mix I should say, naturally Tinkoff Saxo just wanting no silly gaps to open up. There is just one silly gap, as you can see, and that is to Fernandez, who is up the road. It's not Coldo Fernandez from Garmin Sharp, it's Fabrizio Ruben Fernandez, I beg your pardon, from Caia Rural, who's looking reasonably happy in that one. So with 78.7 kilometres to go, we're on this open plateau. You may well hear plenty of what we've already just said in a few moments time as we welcome our friends from Eurosport International, the Asian Pacific Basin, and all the way down to Australasia indeed. So forgive us that if you would, but at least you've had yourselves a little bit of a preview. So we'll just take our break, we'll switch channels from 2, and we'll see you over on 1.
Definitely, it's an absolutely gorgeous day out there. I think the riders, having looked at the route this morning, will have breathed perhaps a little bit of a sigh of relief. It is the least arduous of the days. This particular race is ridiculously hilly, and it's all to come. We've got the Queen stage tomorrow, but today, as you say, you know, it was a challenging start. They climbed about 400 metres straight from the off, which is always difficult, and we're essentially in a basin for 20 k's before kicking up again, and here they are on this plateau, and it's young Ruben Fernandez, very classy rider in his own right, who decided to go it alone, but this is a day to recover if you can. But clearly this is the only day left for the sprinters, and that's why you correctly said, Carlton, that Orica Greenedge, ably assisted by Sky at the moment in the form of young Peter Kenyuk, are at the head of affairs, keeping the tempo high, making sure that young Fernandez doesn't get too much of a lead, and there it is, it's holding at the moment at around 5.5 minutes, but still with 76.3 kilometres to go.
Orica Greenedge then, that's with Sky, and also the yellow and blue, naturally, of our leader, Alberto Contador. Yesterday, for those of you that missed it, because we started today on Eurosport 2 just a tad early due to the tennis, Alejandro Valverde decided to mix it up and just take it to Contador and try and get some gaps, but it didn't work. It's all going to be about tomorrow. Valverde's got his chance. Who's got a chance today? Well, maybe some of those that have not performed as well as expected could have a roll of the dice. We saw Philippe Gilbert reaching out yesterday. He might have a go again today. Somebody else that's worth considering is Luis Leon Sanchez for Caia Rural. We won't be doing anything while his man is up the road at the moment, but good marker, Ruben Fernandez. Certainly, he's got some legs on him, but whether he can cope with a charging peloton on the rolling plateau that we find ourselves here. It's 123 kilometres long. Off the last descent and before we start climbing again. That's a long time to be out there, albeit that it does have some variable terrain, as you can see, to keep the interest going. It's not like a flat open highway, but Matt, we're kind of used to this sort of thing in the Vuelta of old. We used to have some baking days where everyone just kind of rode the stage together as an informal agreement that they weren't going to knock themselves out in sometimes 37, sometimes 40 Celsius. It's not that warm today, but it is one of these days that reminds us of those throwback days to the Vuelta, which they seem to have ironed out. They made it a bit more dynamic these days.
Definitely. Well, I think the organiser of the Vuelta a couple of years back decided that you know, to firstly make the stages slightly shorter, and that at the time was a little bit controversial, but it's certainly proved as a good decision, because the Vuelta has been very exciting over the last few years, and it seemed quite ordinary to have stages of 230, 240 kilometres over pretty uninteresting terrain, and I can remember those stages too in the Sierra Nevada, where it was just mile after mile of characterless, featureless terrain, almost like desert and scrub and nothing else, and it's very difficult to race in those conditions. But of course, from time to time it was actually punctuated by severe crosswinds, and there was a few key stages where it splits a bit. bits on the flatlands of the Sierra Nevada. But today is a stage a little bit similar to that. But again, it's what you call, I suppose, within a 1 week stage race, this is almost a sort of transition stage, and definitely the last opportunity for the sprinters. But I'm quite surprised that we haven't seen a small group go today. Not too sure exactly what action took place, but being a noted climber, there were a couple of opportunities to break away early on, and I've no doubt he went very, very early up the first, quite steep. There was 2 first cat climbs in the first 40 kilometres. I've no doubt that's where he decided to launch clear, and nobody's gone with him. So very, very difficult. He can't relay. It's up to him. It's extremely difficult out there, but he seems to be bowling along quite nicely. It'll just be interesting to see how long he does last.
Vitoria-Gasteiz is the destination today, 194.5 kilometres in total. As you can see, he's not even halfway. So this is going to be a very, very long day for him, unfortunately. In fact, what am I talking about? I've got my maths completely upside down. I was just looking at that barren highway, and suddenly everything emptied out of my brain. So you'll forgive me. He's over halfway.
I got worried then.
He's got 74.4 kilometres to go. There we are. It's. I was actually thinking of the plateau alone of 123, but even though, as I was saying, 194. So yes, he's over halfway. Thank heaven for that. But nonetheless, he's still got quite a good gap. It's being held steady though, and he's out there on a leash. Nobody really wants to catch him that quickly, so we were pacey early on. I think things have been knocked back just a little bit.
Definitely. I think yesterday,
look at that.
That's some great shots there. But again, welcome relief for the riders who've had a couple of very difficult days, straight in at the deep end on stage one, with that extremely difficult stage, of course, won by Alberto Contador. Currently sitting a few riders back in the Amarillo jersey, but at the moment it's Eureka Green Edge and Sky. I can just see Adam Yates there in 3rd position. Several minutes down on GC, so his role will be to keep the pace high, and later on it'll be an opportunity for him to peel off before his teammates come to the fore to really pick up the tempo. But what they don't want to do is bring him back too early either. It's just about keeping the pace nice and high. And of course, with only one rider out there, it's going to be far easier than yesterday. Now, you could argue that the team's made a mistake and miscalculated what they did yesterday. They didn't manage to bring that move back. But I also think it's the fact that Tony Martin was just ridiculously strong. They obviously knew he was there, but I thought it looked like they thought they'd got it under control, but as soon as Tony Martin went away, he was on another level entirely. But they're certainly not going to make that same mistake, and I think that's why we've only seen one rider go clear. I think the teams have tried to control it, because on a course like this, a group of 6 or 7 riders could get a big lead, but with only one rider out front, and I don't want to say his days are numbered yet, because he's putting on a very, very brave performance. And obviously, with it being a local team, they are kind of numbered. But again, he's getting a lot of TV publicity, and he's snaffling up some good mountains points along the way as well.
Certainly is. Belkin have got some options today. Paul Martins can go reasonably quick. He's got Nordhaug as his lead out as well. One man that is of great interest, you see the pink and the blue of Lampre Merida, who are coming to the fore. Rui Costa. Now, he's got some ground to make up. He arrived extraordinarily late to this event. In fact, Michael Cond, who does C-Cycling, reminded us that he actually got in at 23:30, the night before the race started. His bike had also got lost, so cross flights, missed flights, delayed flights, and no bike. So he wasn't on his first bike, his first choice bike on the first day. He was back on his own bike yesterday. He's got a lot in reserve, but he's also got a bit of a deficit, and so you might well see the world champion having a bit of a push today. And Lampre are clearly minded to be where they need to be should there be a break, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Rui Costa actually having a crack at it. And you know, the rainbow jersey being on display today, and a little bit higher up than you might have thought. If we're talking about those who might go for a break and go for a long one, we have some power men here. I'm not talking about the more explosive Philippe Gilbert, but maybe people like Rory Sutherland, who's a bit of a diesel goer when he needs to, might just have a chance, the Aussie, out of the Tinkoff Saxo team. So that's maybe why they're so far to the fore, not just about Continental.
No, definitely. Well, Rory Sutherland is definitely a good bet to go long, and of course they do have Michael Moorcock as well, who can sprint extremely well. I've noted, and you can see him obviously in different colours than his teammates, wearing the red of the national Danish champion. But they've got a few options, but I think their main focus will be Al Contador, but with a couple of joker cards should there be the opportunity.
Exactly. So we'll see. They're just taking a little bit of a feed at the moment, as you can see. But as you are also recognising, this is wide open highway at the moment, and it's, as we said, it's like days of yore within the Vuelta Tour of Spain. We are keeping it to the Basque Country, of course, for this one, and we'll keep an eye. But at the moment, everyone's out for what looks like a Sunday afternooner. Back in a moment. Welcome back. The long line tells you that the pace is, well, I was going to say picking up, but it isn't. I was trying to find something that may well be of interest to you, but to be honest, this is a bit of an amble today. We do have Sky, we do have Orica Greenwich. It's kind of mano a mano today between Matthews and Ben Swift, if we are to believe all of the stories. We do have another Sky versus Greenwich. They've been making these little movies. They are two teams that get on extraordinarily well. I guess Team Sky having Australian money backing due to their connections with the Murdoch Empire. Likewise Sky Television, of course, and Orica Greenwich also being from down under. They've got a loose connection, and as a result they're continuing that scenario, remaining unhinged as well as disconnected from reality by going setting themselves tasks, and some of them have proved to be quite amusing. I think we've had the blink off, haven't we, where they've just been staring at each other across a desk.
And then paper stone scissors was the first one, wasn't it?
Paper scissors stones.
That's it,
and
yeah.
Coming up, we've actually got a supermarket sweep. Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah,
I know what supermarket sweep is. You basically have to run around a supermarket. You've got what, 60 seconds to get as much in your trolley as you possibly can. You've got to have a minimum of 20 different goods, and then whoever's collected goods to the highest value wins, I think. Does that sound right?
That's the kind of general rule of
Otherwise,
supermarket sweep on the telly, I think.
You just go straight to the Napoleon brandy and get 12 bottles of that, you've won. So yes, you've got to have various brands, and I presume alcohol is one of them.
I'm just hoping nobody was injured, because can you imagine that? Two of your key GC riders are wiped out. I think that's why Richie Port's not riding the Giro, because it was supermarket sweep. That'll be in the bloopers reel at the end of the season, and we'll really know why he's not riding.
There we are.
Richie, if you're watching, apologies, I'm only joking, but I'm looking forward to seeing that. It should be fun.
Yeah, it's coming up. AG2 a la Mondiale. Matteo Montecuti is in the Metas Volontes, the sprinters jersey, which is blue, as you can see. Still haven't caught sight of the Generala Montana, which is a red jersey with white polka dots, so the inverse, if that's correct, of the Tour de France. That's the Alto Verso colourway. With David Vieira, he has it for Cannondale. Alberto Contador, of course, is in the golden jersey, and as our leader, and we're not allowed to call it the yellow jersey. And because there's only one, in the points jersey, it's Michael Kwiatkowski, who's going extraordinarily well. We were speculating about the man, weren't we? We talk about the Sagan era, but it's great to see a wave of youth coming through, of which we have to count Ruben Fernandez, who's in the break today, as a very plucky young man who's done some great things actually this season. So I'll tell you what, first of all, before we talk about Kwiatkowski, should we talk about Ruben, who's done quite a bit, and this season too? Yeah,
already this year. I mean, he was sixth in the Ciclista Vuelta and Murcia. Tour of Murcia used to be a stage race a few years back, but I know down to issues with the financing, it's now a single-day race. But sixth place in that, and then also sixth on GC in the Vuelta al Algarve as well, behind Kwiatkowski. Obviously won that overall, so a really, really good start. And again, clearly on form and wanting to prove himself, but no threat on general classification. But when you win a race like the Tour de l'Avenir, I mean, it really does set you apart from your peers at that particular time. But of course, you've got two other riders in this field who were on the podium in the Tour de l'Avenir, and one of them is riding at or near the front at the moment, and that's Adam Yates. So he's on domestique duties. His brother Simon is the best on general classification for Orica Greenwich at only 58 seconds, so riding very, very well. So you're right, Carlton, there's a lot of young riders with tremendous potential on show in this race, all in in different roles. But Kwiatkowski just showed what an all-rounder he was yesterday by pushing Ben Swift really close in that sprint. But of course, you might think, well, why is Kwiatkowski going for a sprint? I mean, no time bonuses, but there's World Tour points on offer for the top few finishers as well, so absolutely vital they snuff like those World Tour financial points, as we talked about the other day, really, really important when you're looking at contract negotiations for the following season.
It's funny, isn't it? The numbers matter, whether it's actually in a table or indeed bonus seconds. And news coming through that the Giro d'Italia has, in fact, changed its rating and indeed bonus seconds at the line. Michele Accaroni, who's no longer head principal of the race, unfortunately for him, and indeed, in my opinion, unfortunately for cycling, because he was a great guy, but unfortunately, financial irregularities at RCS, it fell on him. It was on his watch, despite the fact there is no, as yet, implication that he was involved in any of the financial mismanagement. But he had to take the rap as the boss man, unfortunately, something he's actually appealing at the moment. But anyway, he decided that they were going to have quite a number of bonus seconds at the line, and in fact it was 20 for a regular stage day. That's been halved this year. They're taking it back down to 10, which kind of puts it in line with most other events that have bonus seconds, of which the Tour de France at the moment does not.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, you know, year on year, organisers of Grand Tours constantly reconfiguring the time bonus structures. I guess unless you actually put something in place and try it out, you don't know what's going to happen. And the Giro obviously still playing with that. The Giro, a notoriously complex race sometimes. I know when I rode the Giro back in 2000, and I think it's still going now, they also had a classification, as well as the time bonuses on offer, and intermediate sprints and at stage finishes. They had and hotspot sprint and mountains. They had the Intergiro, which was a completely separate classification. Halfway through the stage, so he had a separate jersey for the Intergiro, and time was taken halfway through the stage with a proper finish line and everything. Very, very odd indeed. But again, if there's a sponsor willing to put the money in to have it, then good stuff. But notoriously complicated. But they've had a look at it again. So essentially, there's now a three-tiered structure in place to favour the sprinters, apparently. So with the top points on offer on a classic sprint stage of 50 points, and then the least amount of points on offer for the mountain stages, which is odd. But I can see the logic behind it. They're obviously looking at, traditionally, points are all about obviously the green jersey in the Tour de France and the red jersey in the Giro. We've seen Mark Cavendish win that recently, but traditionally the points jersey is all about the best finisher, primarily in the sprint. So I think that's what they're looking for. But again, when you have a race with so many mountaintop finishes and hard stages, it's been going the other way. So I think they're trying to address that balance.
Alfonso the 10th. Alfie 10 decided to commission the Santa Maria Church. It's named after St Mary, and there it is, resplendent. Finished in 12:56 apparently. 12:57. They which is, what was that? 3 minutes to 1. They had a big party. 3 minutes and 32 at the moment is the gap, which has been eaten into, and I think it's just that, frankly, on a day like this, there is a pace that you like to ride at, and sometimes things can be going a bit slowly. And the likes of Contador, I know he doesn't actually like to hang around. And it may well be that he's just told the Tinkoff Saxo guys, look, this cadence isn't suiting me, so can we just spark it up a bit? And you may well see teams, we saw Lampre and Merida a little while ago, just coming to the fore on behalf of, we believe, Rui Costa, although Cunego is going extraordinarily well here. Just thinking, well, we'll not only do our duty, but we'll have the pace set how we want it just for a while. And you do get that kind of management through a day, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's strange sometimes in a race. Again, things were slightly different when I raced. There was a lot more of what we called piano, which was basically when the peloton just rode along at sometimes slower than club run pace. So we're looking at 15, 20 miles an hour, just bowling along. And generally they were on stages, transition stages. So they weren't classic sprint stages and they weren't mountainous stages, but it was an opportunity for riders to rest midway through a particularly difficult tour or Grand Tour. And this race is ridiculously hard. From the first two stages, very hard, and then tomorrow right the way through to the individual time trial, a very, very difficult, challenging race. And this does provide a bit of an opportunity midway through. So the middle third of today's stage is an opportunity to just ride, control the pace. But of course you don't want to go too slow, because if you go too slow and then in the finale with the final two climbs, you start to race aggressively, the body just doesn't want to go.
Yeah.
It's all about keeping a good rhythm, so you're not actually hurting, but you're comfortably on top of the gear. And so when there is that sharp injection of pace and the attacks come with 20, 30 kilometers to go, you can respond without tearing muscles or without going into the red immediately. So the pace is quite brisk, but again, I think there's a bit of a crosswind you could see the bunch lined out quite a bit, and a rider's seeking some shelter. It looked like the wind is coming from the left-hand side. So riders are, you know, it's sometimes difficult. You can also be in that area where you're not riding comfortably, you're not riding hard, but it's just uncomfortable enough to be like, oh, I don't quite like this. But it's certainly better to ride at that kind of speed than too slowly.
Although it's light, there is a gentle cross headwind as they have made a turn. You saw it when they came up what looked like a motorway intersection. Looks like we've got a little bit of a transition going on at the moment, and a very gentle sort of arrow marking out a ground down sleeping policeman, which they're rather good at getting rid of for events such as this. 63.7, we're going to have plenty of time to have a chat with you out there. So if you'd like to join the conversation, then please feel free to do so. It's Carlton Kirby or Real Stevens, both on Twitter, and if you hashtag it Eurosport Cycling, then we can have a little chat with you about what's going down today, which at the moment is not very much. We admit that. There is Michael Albacini of Orica Green Edge. It's Michael Matthews they're working for today, you can be sure. So Warren Bourgoy a few moments ago. There's a few riders here, you know, who've really suffered in the opening couple of days, which were extraordinarily more difficult, I would have thought, especially the pace yesterday that they finally got. But you know, the opening day was a very rude awakening. And yes, Bourgoy, 1 minute and 52 down, so his GC credentials taking a little bit of a knock. Not as bad, to be honest, as some others out there, but we did start off with a real bang, despite the fact we've got a hiatus today, and we'll have another one tomorrow with the Queen stage, which is going to be a bit of a nightmare. Definitely, tomorrow is another really, really difficult stage. It's not quite a mountain top finish, but it's a very, very big climb. Yeah, it's good as it just drops off. I think there's a 2 or 3 kilometre plateau / descent just on the top, but it really is going to be a stage where, well, anybody with any sight on general classification is going to have to come out to play. It'll be interesting to see who's got any strength left, but one of them being Jean-Christophe Perrault is one of my favourites, I think. Yeah, I think it's a good call because especially as Carlos Alberto Betancourt is no longer here. He came here looking his usual less than cheerful self, and he's taken his visage somewhere else. But yes, we are left with Jean-Christophe Perrault. People say, aren't you a bit hard on Carlos Alberto Betancourt? He is a young man after all. He is terribly miserable, and he does not have a great media relationship, I've got to say. Whenever he wins, he's shocking to talk to. He's all one-word answers. Maybe he'll warm up. You know, it's an open door, but he hasn't stepped through it yet.
I've not had much to do with the chap. I'm going to give him a chance, but I don't know. He's certainly one of a very, very fascinating and a talented Colombian crop coming through now.
That is true.
Of course, with Nairo Quintana taking a bit of a break and training in his home country of Colombia at the moment, obviously with his sights firmly set on the upcoming Giro. But another rider who has interested me as we look at Orica Green Edge, with Adam Yates setting a good tempo at the front. We haven't mentioned him much, and it's the Japanese national road race champion riding for Europcar, Yukiya Arashiro, currently only 56 seconds and 8th place yesterday in the sprint, and was in the second group on the first stage, riding out of his skin at the moment for Europcar. I thought he was a bit of a surprise going into this race as team leader, but you know, he's won the Tour de Limousin before in 2012, second in 2013, and it was 9th in the World Road Championships in 2010, so very talented rider, and good to see him in the mix every day. But, of course, other riders include for the finish today. I know my tip is going to be either Michael Matthews or Ben Swift, but I know Carlton's tip is Daniele Ratto from Cannondale. As we see, a really good low-level shot there. Very brave of the cameraman to be holding that camera right near the road surface, but it gives a great impression of speed and does give a little bit of extra dimension to what is a relatively straightforward stage today. And there's Rui Costa, just gone off centre there, resplendent in his World Championship colours, and back on the bike that he should be on, of course. And then just to the left of your screen there is Michael Morkov, number 23, on his Specialized SL4S works, just glancing back there, going for the aero helmet. Most of the team in Tinkoff Saxo opting for the aero evade helmets, obviously going for every single bit of advantage that they can. And of course Alberto Conte having a bit of a natter and taking on some food.
Sorry about that. I was just trying to get some more sound, frankly. Rui Costa just drifting into view. I'm sure you mentioned him in his rainbow jersey. I think he might be a bit of a surprise today, because I think he'll be given a bit more of a leash than perhaps he would have been if he wasn't so far down the order. We mentioned the fact that he got here very, very late, and he had to ride the opening day on not his first choice of bike. Now, that's more significant. People think, oh, well, surely you just adjust it. But people very much have their own favourites, and even within absolutely apparently similar bikes, you have what you might call a Monday bike and a Wednesday bike, and there's one that you believe is best for you. And to be honest, you don't want any question marks when you're engaged in a professional cycling race.
No, at this level, well, even at under 23 level and across the board, if you race and you race seriously, you are essentially dialed into a particular frame size and then a particular setup. Down to the smallest fraction. So even if you got on a bike that was, say, I think Rui Costa probably rides a 54 or a 56 centimetre frame, even if they got a spare bike that was the right size, even with the right handlebars and stem and seat, sometimes bikes feel just a little bit different than but most of these guys at the top level will have a 1, 2 or 3 bikes, but clearly riders do have a number 1 bike. It's like a pair of shoes that you get into that you feel comfortable on. There's no compromise. It's all about feeling at one with the machine, and it can cause you damage as well if you ride a bike that's a few centimetres out. I know the other day Peter Sagan hopped on a spare bike and it wasn't the right size. I think that was in Flanders he did that, or in E3. That can cause big problems. I've jumped on spare bikes which are the same size but with a difference on saddle height of just 1 centimetre, and I was suffering from awful cramps. So it's absolutely vital physically, but also mentally as well, because you need to be confident about a machine, the way it handles, the way it corners, especially the way it descends, and especially when things are going down in the finale, when there's attacks left, right and centre, and you need to be completely focused. One of the worst things to do is get on a bicycle where the brakes are wired the wrong way around as well, and that's happened to me and a couple of my fellow professionals from time to time, and that generally happens when you don't get
borrowed Lloyd's bike.
Yeah, when I borrowed Dan Lloyd's bike, or when you get a bike from neutral service, that's a nightmare. So you need to know which side to brake on. But no, obviously it's good to see Rui Costa back on his own bike anyway.
Yeah, I'm actually getting our first look at the Mountains jersey, and it looks like it is David Vieira, not on your screen at the moment. This is our breakaway rider for Cannondale, who's doing some water carrying duties. It's really not been a feature of the race so far, but of course will be growing in importance tomorrow. And there he is, as if by magic. There it is, red with white dots. Looks rather attractive as well. I do like the way that Cannondale just constantly manage to get their own livery where it should be. Somebody was saying the other day that Sagan's national jersey of Slovakia, where they're just allowing the Slovakian stripes, makes the rest of his team all look like Estonian national champions, and I think that's absolutely right. If you've got a national jersey, I think there should be a UCI rule, which means that you have to wear it. Just look at, you see there, that is a proper national jersey from Finland. Thank you very much. That's what we want to see, and it's messing around. A number of riders just pinging off the front because it's that time of day, not for a breakaway challenge, not with 54.6 kilometres remaining, of which I've got to tell you much of that is still flatlands. So today has been a bit of a transition. I guess it's quite kind to everyone, but we're expecting a full-on sprint later on. We'll come to the approach, which looks rather nasty, in a moment. But there's no real desire to waste energy today until the business ends, so let the sprinters have their fun, because tomorrow they're going to need all their energy, because we've got 2 Category 1 climbs, including the finish up to Arati Albar. That is the Queen stage, and somebody's saying, why do you call it the Queen stage? Gary Kelly, in fact. Gary, it's because, well, it's just tradition, really. It's the La Reine. I think the last royal was indeed a reine when Marie Antoinette had her head chopped off. So they kind of, that was the last sort of remnant of royalty, and I think rather than call it the King stage, it's the Queen stage. So
the meat cake,
it means the big one. Yes, let them eat cake. Indeed. In fact, you get that in some of your nose bags. But anyway, more on that later. We've seen them rolling through, and a couple of riders, people asking, are they going on a break? No, they're going to have a comfort break. They're listening to it, I think. There is Resplendent, our polka dot jersey. Close up for you this time by.
Give us a wave. He's obviously got Eurosport piped into his headphones today.
Good man.
He normally gives us a wave. But looking good in that jersey. It is quite a nice jersey. I do like the way it's inverted, so it's not quite the same as the traditional polka dot jersey in the Tour. But yeah, we've got some great shots, some helicopter shots of the bunch. They look like they're ambling along. I can assure you they're not, although they're going to be comfortable. It doesn't look like the wind's too hard, but this is an opportunity for riders to essentially recuperate. At this point in the race, you know, they're essentially making sure they're well fed, and when the pace is like this and very, very steady, you generally feel you need to take more comfort breaks. So you'll see riders occasionally going up the outside, overtaking the head of the bunch and dropping into the right before stopping. And what that does, that enables you a little bit more time, because the bunch and obviously the following cavalcade is, you know, 30, 40, 50 seconds, over a minute long. So if you decide to drop off the back of the bunch and then take a tour of nature at the side of the road, you're going to be a long way down. So it's a good move to overtake the peloton, generally give them a bit of a wave so they know you're not attacking before swinging in, just to buy yourself some time. Some guys are gifted and can actually go to take a call of nature on the move. That generally happens on descents, or you might get a teammate to give you a bit of a push.
You mean physiologically gifted or backhand?
I think it's both. I think it's both. I think it's both. And also depends on what sort of shorts you're wearing as well, of course. Yeah, you need to be very careful. But no, if you can stop, it's far easier. But a good tip is to give yourself a bit of space. And an opportunity to have a chat with your director sportif too.
Yeah, I do like the the Prince Albert selection within the peloton, who can who can rest up while moving. There we are. Draw your own conclusions from that. A couple of thoughts on the national jersey. Stuart Nisted? Stuart anyway says Cav's national jersey looks like the flag of Luxembourg. What's wrong with the Union Jack? I must admit there are. I do like it when they just go for the flag, good and proper. So I'm in agreement with you there. The old hoops, which is I think the original Olympic colours of Great Britain, incidentally, a blue and white with well, red, white, and blue hoops across the chest. I think in those days colours were not dyes because they didn't have the printing. They were ribbons, and so they've carried the ribbon bands through history. So it does have a historical reference, having those little hoops around. You've seen, you know, Braysher doing the 4 minute line and all that kind of stuff, wearing that because it was our Olympic colours. But yes, I would quite like to see an in-your-face Union Jack splat on the back. That would be fantastic. Or indeed making up the whole. I remember the American champion, the Captain America they called it, which was very stars and stripy. That went down quite groovily. Yeah,
I think he got. He wore a captain. I think who was the rider that he's just recently retired, but he wore a Captain America skin suit and he had a Captain America. No, it wasn't George. George Hincapie has obviously been national US champion a few times. But it was the rider from Garmin with the handlebar moustache. It's David Zabriskie.
Thank you.
David Zabriskie rode, and he got told off for having a Captain America helmet, and I think Marvel Comics actually got in contact to say just to be careful.
That's ours.
Just be careful.
You'd think it would be good advertising, but anyway, yes, I love it when it's loud and proud. It's the flag. The French champion is the tricolour. Full stop. That's it. Jussi Väikänen, he's got a blue cross upon his back. The Finnish champion looks fantastic. We've got the Danish champion here, Michael Morkov, white cross with red background. Yeah, why not? Indeed. But yeah, the old ribbons were used. I think the Australians still also carry the sort of green ribbons around their chest, and the Germans likewise, actually. So all those old Olympic nations that were pretty handy back in the 1920s, when these things really started to matter.
Definitely. But I think the wonderful thing about being a national champion of your country, you obviously get to wear that jersey for a full road season, but then for the rest of your career you get to wear the stripes on the sleeves as well as a memento. So generally you'll see so some teams play with the design. Team Sky, obviously the clothing is from Rafa. They've got a particularly stylish motif. So on the right hand sleeve, and you see Geraint Thomas and Bradley Wiggins and Ian Stannard with a little flash, a Union Jack on the sleeve. But the more traditional way of doing it is the flashes on the collar and on the cuffs of the sleeves. So the Spanish will obviously have the yellow and red stripes, and the USA will have the stars and stripes. But it is something that is quite fun to sort of play with from a design perspective. But that's something that you can carry. And of course, when you're world road champion and you've had your year, you then carry those world road championship stripes.
Forever.
But of course, Mark Cavendish at the moment, he's carrying the national road champions jersey, but he's got that on with the World Championships band on the National Road Champions jersey. How cool is that?
Cool bear. That's where we are now. Paul Richardson has written in and said, I think that cameras on bikes is a great idea. Brian Cookson, who is our super chief at the UCI, suggested it, and it's something we've been calling for a long, long time. I think you might have to handicap other riders with the same weight of input, if you're going to put it. We've seen cameras on board bicycles before. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was either in Phoenix or the tour of, it was either Arizona or California. They actually had a pen cam. It's not that heavy, but it's heavy enough for it to be perceived to be a disturbance. So I think you might have to add a little bit of weight, you know, a little dummy weight, the same. But anyway, I digress. It was on just underneath the saddle, pointing backwards. And so when you're in the pack, it looked absolutely fantastic. And you really got a sense of the drama within the pack. It's something actually I suggested to the organisers of the Giro would be something they should pick up. They said, how can we differentiate our race from the Tour de France? I said, a couple of things. One is have a stage finish jersey in a black and white checker flag, as if the finish line had fallen upon them. So you get to wear the checkerboard jersey for a day if you were the stage winner from the previous day. I said that would define them for the crowd. That would be great. And the other thing was stick some cameras on the bikes pointing backwards. So Brian Cookson has clearly been listening in.
I think this is something that should have been, I'll be honest with you, I think this should have been adopted years ago. It's a very exciting development, but we should have been doing it years ago. I think we're way behind, and it's about time we had looked at that sort of technology.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You will not believe the atmosphere within the pack, and indeed the drama that will be revealed to you. So I'm all for Brian Cookson's initiative, getting behind the original Kirby plan. And doing it. That would be fantastic. Enjoying the Vuelta coverage, says Ronaldo. You guys think Tom Gelter slacked his debut for Garmin? How do we think he's going? I think he might go very well, actually. Just dwelling on Tom Gelter's slack, just second in the Grand Prix Miguel Indurain. Right up on the Paris-Nice. I think he's a very, very good signing.
An extremely good signing. It took a really, well, I think it would be fair to say his victory in the Tour Down Under whilst riding for the Blanco squad, obviously now Belkin, was something that turned a few heads. And Jonathan Wouters, as I think I've said before, was very shrewd in investing in this young rider, who's proving already to have probably paid back the confidence that was paid in him with the two outstanding victories in Paris-Nice, and he's only at the moment 56 seconds down. He's the best rider overall for Garmin Sharp, so definitely a guy for the future, and still quite young. So a very, very exciting prospect who could seem to ride well on all sorts of terrain. But the finishes that he did win on in Paris-Nice were slightly uphill. Today, a little bit different. It's the first essentially downhill finish, isn't it? And quite technical to boot. It's worth talking about that as we look at Urdazabi-Urdax. Again, the veteran riding on the Trek squad there. Is, we've got for the last couple of kilometres, it's essentially minus 3.5%. So it's only gradual, but it is downhill. And then just after, with about 1,800 metres to go, there's a roundabout. And then just after they go onto the Flamme Rouge, there's another roundabout where they go straight on. And then with 400 metres to go, there's another roundabout with a slight left turn. So very technical. So I think we're going to see an extremely interesting sprint today. And that's why, of course, all the sprinters' teams are to the fore. But yeah, it's going to be all about getting in the right position at the right time.
I think the main problem is going to be lead-out trains, especially if it's busy, and we're going to have over 100 riders potentially coming together at that point. It's going to be a bit tasty, let's put it that way. You're going to have to be able to look after yourself, and maybe some of the lead-out trains, of which let's talk about them, shall we? Who's got a decent lead-out train today? Certainly Michael Matthews. He's got the Yates brothers who are going to be working for him, Simon and Adam. He's also got Simon Gerrans, who can punch a big hole. In fact, Gerrans, I think, did the job for Impey. Was it last year or the year before? Double win for Impey anyway. Gerrans cruising to finish in 5th place on the day that he did deliver him. And Michael Abelsini as well. So they've got a proper a lead-out train working for Michael Matthews. The problem is he's got 3 roundabouts and an awful lot of other riders who want to be part of that grand finale.
Here we go. It says, sorry to cut across you there, Carlton. There's a little side view of Sammy Sanchez He's got a 1-year contract with BMC as the former Olympic road race champion, of course, in Beijing, and still sporting those golden seedy shoes.
It's very tasty.
A bit of a nod to his gold medal, of course, but there you go. But no, it is going to be a very interesting finish. This isn't a field that's full of pure sprinters, although we do have one or two. So there's going to be some potentially some unfamiliar names in the mix, which makes for quite an unpredictable finale. And I think the only two teams, as you've highlighted, that have lead-out trains of sort are Team Sky and Orica. But these teams primarily built around riders who can climb well, because this terrain, there's only really 2 stages for the sprinters, and one was essentially yesterday, although Tony Martin stole a march. But there's only 55 or 56 riders left in the bunch. But it'll be interesting to see how these final 2 climbs are raced. I think there will be a little bit of a thinning out, but I think the likes of Ben Swift and Michael Matthews will be more than up to the task of staying in the mix and fighting out the finale.
There's Damiano Cunego, who's lively yesterday, likes a bit of a descent. It may well be that tomorrow he's in the frame again. He seems to be spinning up a storm at the moment. He seems more than happy. Let's talk about some of the outsiders that we've got today. Coldo Fernandez is one of those from Garmin Sharp. He is Basque. He's also formerly of Euskaltel, and he's only just back on the bike, came back in Catalonia, and is kind of spinning himself back into form, really. I don't know whether it's a late contract or what the issue was with Coldo Fernandez as to why he's had the hiatus. Some of you may know a darker reason, but anyway, Fernandez is back, and he's Basque, and he's quick. So don't count him out on a day which really is the last one for the sprinters today, man.
Definitely. He's taken in the past 3 stages of the Tour of Burgos, a couple of stages of the Tour de Vendée. He's a very, very good sprinter. But again, these teams aren't particularly weighted with sprinters, so but it is a good opportunity for him to.
And if it's every man for himself, he might have it.
Definitely. Yeah. But it's all going to be about positioning. But of course, I think what we'll see as well, because of the technical nature of the finish, we will see the GC guys riding at or near the front, so they stay out of trouble.
Yeah,
but of course,
so.
Years ago, well, only a couple of years ago now, the time was taken. If you had a mechanical or you were caught behind a crash and it was outside of a kilometre to go, that was it. You lost that time. And now, I think correctly, the UCI have readdressed and looked at that rule. So if you are caught behind a crash or you have a mechanical within the last 3K, you're safe. But still, regardless if you're being safe time-wise, what you don't want to do is lay it down and get injured. So the best place to be is at or near the head of affairs. But it could be quite scrappy today, because although we have lead-out trains of such, these aren't the classic lead-out trains that we're used to seeing in the Grand Tours. So it's going to be, I think it makes for more of an interesting bike race, actually, because it's not traditional. It's going to be more difficult to call. But I think my favourite, and I think, as I mentioned it earlier on, is going to be Ben Swift. I think he's the man for today for me, anyway.
I think you're right. I think Ben's got an amazing chance. And Michael Matthews probably a bit more of a scrapper, but Ben Swift more of a purist when it comes to this kind of thing. He's only got Peter Kennick, and I think that's probably to his advantage. Michael Matthews has got a whole raft of lead-out boys who can really help deliver him, but it could be messy. And so if you've only got a modest plan, should we put it that way, and you know that you've got the legs, you've only got one wheel to worry about, and so he stays on Kennick, and then Swifty does his thing. So I think it's probably an extraordinarily good call, and Ben Swift is my favourite as well. But I'd like to see Coldo Fernandez do something today, so I'm going to switch from Danny Ratto today, and you just watch. Ratto will have an absolute
I did call Ratto earlier on while you just popped out. So, oh, well, so you're changing it. So Ratto to okay. Well, I'll allow that, because we still have a fair distance to go. So yeah. we'll slot that one in.
I'm not going for a big favourite, but I'm going to go for Coldo Fernandez to do something today. So watch out for Garmin Sharp. I think he will be up there, kind of around about in the frame. Paul Martin goes quickly as well. He's got Nordhaug working for him. Tosh van der Sande as well was busy in Catalonia for Lotto Belisol. Wouldn't be surprised to see him there with Dennis Van den Dert working hard for him. Michael Morkoff's also a decent shout, the big Dane. If he's on rails, he can go for it.
Definitely. I mean, he's a lovely guy, very, very affable character is Michael Morkoff. Been around for a while, and it was his first big win last year when he took the Danish road title. But it's a very able track rider as well. But it was his stage win in the Vuelta that really changed things for him. But he knows. He said if he feels right and he gets the right wheel, he knows he's as quick as anybody. So it'll just be interesting to see whether he's allowed freedom to participate in the gallop today, or it's all about looking after the #1 man, and that's Alberto Contador in the Amarillo jersey, of course.
44.8 kilometres to go, 3 minutes and 15. I'm now beginning to feel just a little bit sorry for Ruben Fernandez, not Caldo from Garment Sharp, my call for the day, but Ruben for Kaya Rural, who's there he is, lonely soul that he is. I think he could probably at some point maybe just pull over, stop for an ice cream and wait for everybody. Do you know what? He'd be in every cycling mag, and he'd be on all of the social sites as well if he did exactly that. So,
and unemployed though. So it's how do you play it? Do you go for publicity or a job? I don't know, but it'd be lovely to see.
Yeah, Hill is Salburura's wetland. Yeah, if you camp near this, you hear applause in the morning. It's not people welcoming you to the world. It's the mosquitoes. That looks like very still water, doesn't it? Yes. Oh dear. All right, I'm feeling itchy already. We'll take a break. Back in a moment. Welcome back to the Basque Country. It's stage 3 today. We've made a change in direction at Gasteiz, as you can see, and well, some of you mentioning some of the architecture we've seen. A bit of Paul Gehry. There was a sniff of that earlier on. There's a huge gallery, isn't there, in Basque Country that somebody will remind me of in a moment, that was designed by Gehry. There you are. And there is it the Guggenheim? Anyway, somebody will say. My wife will kill me because she's an art teacher. 42 kilometres remaining, and there is the May West profile to finish us off at the end of the day. It might well finish a few off, I guess, but only if they take it at pace. It's 2 category 3 climbs. It appears to be a downhill to the line. It's not. When they come off it, there is still a good deal of time for them to regroup. There could be a regroupement, although on the descent you might find that there is some real power going in to the pace. And so with 42.1 kilometres to go, we reckon we've got about 50 minutes, because the finishing pace today will be absolutely stratospheric.
It certainly will. It's again, it'll be interesting to see how the teams of the sprinters cope with any attacks on the climbs, or will if there will be any attacks on the climbs, because clearly the riders will know what's laying ahead of them in the next few days, and it is all about, you know, the final time trial and those 3 ridiculously hilly stages. So this is a day for the opportunists. So I do think we'll see the likes of Rui Costa, who, you know, is 4 minutes off the general classification, and Philippe Gilbert go on the attack. But the way Valverde was attacking yesterday on the last couple of climbs, he was using every opportunity to try and put Alberto Contador on the ropes, and it was good to see. And I know he's had his checkered past, but when he's on the road, I do like the spirit that he rides with. He just won't give an inch and won't give up. And I do think we'll see a bit of a battle on these last 2 hills. They're not overly steep. The penultimate climb, got 2 names here. There's obviously the Basque name and the Spanish name, but it's the Alto de Vitoria, or the Alto de Gasteiz, and that's his 3rd category. It's a long one, so it's quite draggy.
I'm loving the accents, by the way.
Thank you very much.
You're really putting in plenty.
Thank you. It's a longitude, or a length, of course, of 4.8 k's with an average gradient of 3.92%, maxing out at 6.5. And then a few k's later, so we're looking at about 20 kilometres later from the top of there, is the Alto de Zalderian, which is a little bit steeper, 2.8 k's, average of 5.36. I'll go now, Carl.
No, please stay.
I'll get myself off. But no, so definitely for opportunities, I do think we'll see Valverde jumping around. But I think if you could get over the top of that with 25 seconds or something like that, one of the other riders who's not a threat on GC, it's going to be up to these sprinters teams to bring it back. So I think a lot's going to happen, and when we hit those 2 climbs towards the end.
Well, guess what? Sky have come to the fore. Likewise, Orica Greenwich. And of course, just keeping the policemen in them happy. Tinkoff Saxo are staying there, working for Alberto Contador. A few of you saying, you know, why are you so pleased to see Alberto Contador doing so well when he's checkered past, and likewise Valverde. To be honest, you know, they've done the crime, they've done their time, and done the crime, done the time, and they're back. And whether or not you believe it's a level playing field after you have indeed engaged in activities that contravene the rules of cycling is something else, and I guess we could get into a long drawn-out conversation about it. Personally speaking, I actually like Alberto Contador as a man. I think the way he handled himself when he was at Astana under all kinds of pressure was something to behold. He was basically isolated within his own team, and for me, that was absolutely remarkable. One of the most stoic seasons that anyone's had to go through. It was quite a display.
Yeah, it is always a very difficult subject when we're looking at riders who have, as I say, had pasts which are quite questionable, but they've been sanctioned. Those sanctions are now over. They're allowed, you know, under the terms of the rules and regulations set out by the UCI, to ride in this race, and it's our job to commentate on the race and what's going on and what is unfolding in front of us. And there are many people who have views, and both myself and Carlton do have views about riders, but when we're here to talk about what's going on, and we're here to talk about bike racing, and bike racing is my favourite sport. I think it's the most beautiful, romantic, dynamic and exciting sport in the world, and these riders are exciting, and when they get out on the climbs and start tearing each other to bits, it's just great fun to talk about. So that's what we're here to do, isn't it?
Exactly. 39.6 kilometres to go, and we are certainly not apologists, believe me. As we go through a Tatsu.
Or Tatsu.
Yeah. That's the oldest tattoo parlour, apparently, in... I'm making up because I've got no notes on a Tatsu. I'll try and find something for you in just a few moments' time. Somebody's now going to say, how dare you? You know, it's very easy in this job to upset people. So let's just stick to the racing, shall we? Downstairs we go. And, you know, today it's one of the liveliest just on the top shelf, not on the ceiling, but on the top shelf, if you see what I mean, waiting to pounce. It's Lamprey. What are they playing at? It's Rui Costa, and they will be teeing him up for a go. He's going to have a dig with a climb to go, I reckon, and possibly on the first one. And will he be allowed to go? Well, he's got a bit of a deficit, so you never know. It might well be his day for fireworks. Maybe Gilbert will follow him. We'll see. 38 kilometres to go. The peak of the penultimate climb is in 10. He's going to be climbing before you know it, and then he's going to get found out. 2 minutes and 6. The pace has suddenly risen, as you can see. It's just starting to stretch out on the neck of the chasing pack as we look. The peloton still seems reasonably intact. I don't think we've really lost anyone today. We've had a few step-offs during this tour. But we still have an awful lot of talent, which will probably get most of its display tomorrow. We don't have the world's top draw sprinters, but we've got some very quick men. And the two favourites today, Ben Swift and Michael Matthews from Sky and Orica Green Edge, two teams that know each other extraordinarily well. You've seen the shenanigans that they get up to off the bikes. They're all quite reasonably fond of each other, and I guess, English speaking, in the pack, why not stick together? They do. So today it is destination Vitoria-Gasteiz. We've had a long plateau. It's just about to come to an end, and then the fireworks will begin. As a result, everyone's kind of keeping the pace up, not really wanting anyone to break away who might be a threat. Is Rui Costa a threat today, at least for the stage?
Yeah, he's clearly not a threat overall. He's not in the shape that perhaps he would want in relation to the big hills, but of course he did have a very difficult start, as you've alluded to earlier on, with then, you know, getting to the race late and not having his right bike, and as well as the difficulties logistically about not having your bike and getting in late. There's mental issues that come into play. It can be very, very stressful, and if you need to perform at this level, you need to be on your A game, as is quoted. I think it's Team Sky used that phrase. In every sense of the word. So you need to be rested correctly, and you need to be unstressed. You need to be relaxed and focused on the job in hand, not everything else. So, but I think now Rui Costa's you know, a few minutes down and no major threat. He'll be eyeing this stage. Perhaps the next couple of stages could be too difficult, although of course, you know, he has he's moved to Lamprey purely with a view to having a free reign in the Grand Tour. So he needs to maybe step up his game, and I say that totally respectfully, in terms of the big mountains, because if he's looking at you know, carrying that World Championships band over the climbs of the Alps and the Pyrenees and looking at being a contender, he needs to look at these hillier stages. But I think today we'll definitely see him in the action. He is on form with 6 second places already this season. You know, they're great results, but they're also remarkably frustrating for a man who wants to just put his arms up over the line in that jersey.
I think you're absolutely right. I think he wants it. He wants it an awful lot. Likewise, Calder Fernandez, we mentioned him earlier on, he is a Basque. He's the quick man for Garmin. From that disbanded Euskaltel team, and it went out, it exploded like an orange in that famous festival. Look at this, just to try and manage the situation, and indeed the rainbow jersey is not that far off the nose right now, and we are heading for this, the action point of the day. It's the first little sprint that we're carrying into now, and then they're going to be driving up this peak, and he's already onto it right now, the man who is up the road. Rural trying to work for him too, and the clock rolls underneath that MV, that Metas Volantes intermediate sprint, but he's climbing.
It certainly is. They've got some interestingly placed Meta Volantes. Hotspot sprints generally are put in places where it's quite flat, so it's for the sprinters, but this is at the foot of a climb. But of course, he's on his own. He's got nobody with him that he needs to contest the sprint with. Perhaps his shadow, which it looks like he got by a wheel in that particular sprint, but it's obviously his team mopping up the points behind. There are lots of points on offer over the next few stages, and a team like Caja Rural with no, well, they're basically not in the running for a GC place now, which would be quite disappointing. That's why we're seeing them racing aggressively, getting guys up the road and trying to look at possibly focusing on the Hotspot Sprints jersey. Yeah,
why not? You will expect to see them in a lot of breaks and trying to do exactly that. Fiona Rossi's written in on Twitter, and she says, what about Cannondale today? Daniele Ratto is a good call. He has as well Michael Koch, he's got Jean-Marc Marino, and he's got David Vieira, let's not forget, as lead-out men. Damiano Caruso can do a fantastic turn for them as well, but it is Ratto that will be their chosen man. 1:09. Nice to see the graphic, both graphics actually coming into into sync, kind of. Destination today is Vitoria-Gasteiz. It's a long day, 194.5 kilometres. Most of it has been a bit of an amble. Steve M says, how does Carlton Kirby and the like manage to keep the drivel to a minimum on a day like this? I think some people would probably take the opposite view, Steve.
There's been some drivel, I think.
He said, I'd find myself talking absolute tosh.
We'll leave that one.
Yes, exactly. But thanks for the compliment along the way. 35.6 kilometres remaining, 1:05, and here we go. You can see that he's found the legs all of a sudden. You know, sometimes, I know this sounds a bit odd, a little bit of a ramp is easier to take than just total flat.
Definitely, you can get yourselves into a little bit of a rhythm, which this guy is about to do now.
It certainly is. Looking comfortable, at least in his position, but look at the visage. This is a man who's had to do it all on his own, and he's less than a minute now of just nudging either side of that. He's kept a decent pace, to be honest, and if there was a combativity award, and there isn't, he'd get it. Maybe it's a book token, I don't know.
Maybe we should have a whip round and send him something, because no, he's been a stalwart today. These stages, often these more, I don't like to use the word uninteresting, but there's not as quite as many challenges on the road today. But it's guys like this that animate bike racing across the board, and it's easy to be light-hearted about their efforts. But he's a professional bike rider. He's won the Tour l'Avenir, and look, this is what pro cycling is about: getting your sponsor's jersey on TV. And being aggressive. So it's been a great day for him, but very, very hard. And you can see now his style, his form has changed a bit. Earlier on, 40-50 kilometres back when we opened the show, he was looking remarkably smooth, but now he's losing a bit of form. And when I say that, his body isn't quite as still on the bike, rocking those shoulders. And of course, cracks are beginning to appear on his face. He's grimacing a little bit. His head's moving up and down. He's just going to try and stay out for as long as he can, but he doesn't want to get caught on this climb. Perhaps if he gets caught just over the top, he might have a chance of staying in the mix. But I think once he gets caught by a raging peloton soon, he's going to be spat straight out of the rear. And the shameful thing is he might be finished on his own. But that's the nature of it. He's taken a risk, and this is the outcome.
It is. The Alta di Vitoria, or Gasteiz, because it's called Vitoria or Gasteiz, the town. So we're kind of skirting the town, going up, coming back down, and going up again, and then coming into town. The maximum gradient that they're going to have to deal with on this one is actually 6.5%. It's not for that long. I think it's about 400 metres around that, that he will be suffering. In fact, no, I'm actually just looking. It's about 70 metres only within the 4.8. So it's not it's not a huge test, let's put it that way, but I think coming at the end of a day when all you've had is a tune going around your head. They say that in certain sports, and cycling's one of those, if you're actually in a stress situation, get a tune in your brain and then just play the tune, but it can actually just really hamper you later on. I used to find myself actually thinking with American Pie going around my brain whenever I got into a stress climb in the Dales, the Yorkshire Dales. But yeah, what tune did you fall back on?
I'm trying to think of some tunes. There were, I think sometimes when you do various races, a lot of races, and the Tour of Britain springs to mind, and the Tour series, and some races abroad, they are quite fond of Europop, and I'm not a big fan. I like rock and a bit of indie and stuff.
The useless because you want to take your hands off.
Yeah, and there's sometimes you'll get a loop, and I'm no doubt some pros would testify that there's the song that you, or a tune that you abhor, generally is the one that impregnates itself inside your mind, and it's on a constant loop. But again, it's difficult to get rid of. But as we see, it's game over now for Ruben Fernandez. A very, very brave ride by the young Spanish Tour l'Avenir winner. Takes a glance over his shoulder, and I think he'll probably, as well as spending most of the stage on his own, he's not going to be able to stay too long in the bunch. And it's Josh Edmondson for Sky. Jersey unzipped, looking good.
The call goes out all together, but the question is, for how long? Here come Lampre Merida in the pink. They are just off the right-hand side of your screen, and they're making their way to the business end because Rui Costa is going to get a bit of help here from his team, at least to try and slingshot him. There is the rainbow hoops, or are the rainbow hoops, upon his jersey over on the right-hand side of the road, and he looks peaky and up for it, I've got to say.
He does. There's a Jose Serpa there with one of the best moustaches in the peloton on the left-hand side, number 37. So and he's
fantastic.
Got Damiano Canego there as well. So they're moving to the fore. There's Michael Morkov moving up the outside, and there, of course, is Alberto Contador himself, looking very, very comfortable in that jersey that really is similar to it, remarkably similar to his Tinkoff Saxo teammates, and Bobby Youngles there on the outside. So it's a rotating now, riders getting themselves into the mix and in the right positions.
Here we go. The Mountains jersey's just hoved into view, which is always a joy, on the back of Monteguti. They're working for Daniele Ratto, don't forget. BMC also want some fun today. Their fun is probably going to be had at distance, and Philippe Gilbert is without doubt the man they're working for. Average of 3.9 this climb, but as we said, it does peak at 6.5, and yeah, you won't see much of that. It looks undefined from this altitude, but you can see from the pace, and indeed some of the riders just getting out of the saddle, that this is more than a test than you might have believed. Maybe at the back of a very long day, even more so.
Definitely. Well, these sorts of climbs when they come climb after climb, you get into a rhythm, you climb, then you descend, you hit another one. But when you've been on the flat, we've been on this plateau now for over 100 kilometres, hitting a climb at speed, and I can tell you that Sky are riding at quite a good tempo now. Obviously, trying to deter any attacks. The legs are going to hurt, but it is quite a gradual gradient on this climb. A very, very good road surface, nice and wide, so there are opportunities to sit in the wheels if you can.
Yeah, and likewise as well, if you want to do a looping attack, which is the way it seems to happen, you've got plenty of road space to actually enjoy yourself here. Nobody, certainly at this pace, has got a chance just for the time being. It's being kept really, really pacey right now, and the main Vitesse is being injected by Team Sky because they want to protect Ben Swift and protect him from anybody who might decide to go up the road.
Definitely looks like that's the American Danny Pate on the front, and it looks like it's Josh Edmondson on his wheel. I can just see the very distinctive frame of Vasily Kirienka, of course. Took that wonderful solo victory in the Tour of Spain, and a stalwart for Team Sky. Had a problematic Tour de France last year, but yeah, they're massing at the front and setting a really good tempo now.
White jersey of Michael Kwiatkowski, never going to be that far away here as well for Omega Pharma Quick-Step, and indeed we're looking at Astana as well, just coming into view. I thought Kwiatkowski had the white jersey today, but clearly not. Maybe he's wearing his Polish one. I don't know. I don't know why that would not be him. But anyway, there you are.
That was a stroke, because he's definitely down as leading the points classification by 2 points. So,
yes.
But we'll pick him out in a moment, because I've no doubt he'll make sure he's at the head of affairs.
Yes.
But as you can see, this is the difficult time in a race now for any professional or any amateur rider when you're trying to keep at the front. The peloton is essentially, it's a living thing, it's organic, it's constantly moving, and riders rotating around the outside and getting swamped. So it's about trying to make sure that you keep attentive, keep concentrated, to make sure you don't lose too many places and drift down to the back of the bunch.
Sky doing a fantastic job at the moment, working for Ben Swift, and there he is, number 67. He's in line 4 at the moment. Vasco is the nearest man to him. Kirienka just sitting a little bit proud, as you can see, so he's offering a lot of wind protection and sacrificing himself. He's taking a lot of the breeze right now.
He certainly is. And you can see number 1 there, about 10 riders back. Yesterday he was in the white jersey, but back in his Mobistar colours, and that's Alejandro Valverde. And I don't want to make too many predictions, but I do think on the next climb we're going to see some fireworks from him and 1 or 2 others, and I definitely think we're going to see Rui Costa go on the attack. But this climb, I think there'll be no attacks. I think they're just going to ride this one at tempo, and looking at the tempo that's been set by Sky at the moment, any attacking will be a very, very difficult proposition anyway.
It will, and out of the saddle they go and just continue the drag. You can get a lot of protection if you are within the pack, let's not forget. And we see the Japanese champion who's gone very well into that. We haven't really mentioned Yuki Arashiro, but he's reasonably quick when he needs to be for Team Europe car. You see the Japanese flag, the rising sun, upon his back. And still they ply their trade and wander, and a little bit of vision being taken. AG2R Le Mondial without Carlos Alberto Betancourt, don't forget, but Jean-Christophe Perrault is the man that they are protecting, and it looks like we might have a little bit of a roll of the dice at long last.
There we go. That does seem to be that's either a very, very big manoeuvre up the outside or just getting yourself in position. Yeah, it's not an out-and-out attack.
Not yet.
It's just moving up the outside. But yeah, they've got to be attentive.
Cannondale just picking up a little bit more pace as well. They have David Vieira in the Mountains jersey, just in P2 here at the moment, working for Ratto. He'll be close at hand, you can be sure, waiting for this, putting a feed zone absolutely at this point, or at least last waters, I guess, is not an absolutely ideal idea, I wouldn't have thought. Maybe at the crest would be better, but because they're at this point they're battling for road position.
They certainly are. It's quite a crucial point in the race. It's obviously Cannondale leading out Vieira to mop up the points in the mountains classification, and a really good bit of teamwork there. Teamwork leading him out and then slotting him behind, so it takes maximum points over that climb. No real challenge for third place. Team Sky's just keeping that momentum, not panicking. They know that that was just purely for the points, but I think the strategic positioning of that feed was purely because they're not going to feed on the downhill, and the next downhill section is very fast. They can't feed there, and we go within 20 kilometres to go, so it looks like that was the last rather unfortunate opportunity to get the feed in safely, but always difficult when you're riding at speed on a climb to get a feed.
I think many of these riders might well be a bit light as far as fluids are concerned, and that could have an impact later on. We'll see. 29.5. It's not the hottest of days. 21 Celsius. I've known days in Spain where it's been over 40s, and that's been really horrible, especially on days like this, and that's really when you do get that agreement not to race and they all sort of bunch together. They have been reasonably pacey today. Look at the speeds that's showing on your screen right now, nudging 80 kilometres per hour. They are not hanging around.
They're not, and that's Tony Martin, who we saw adopt that position yesterday to extremely good effect when he soloed to that stunning victory, keeping the bunch at bay. An interesting interview with him post-race. We talked about it yesterday, didn't we, Carlton? That I wonder if he was thinking about when the victory was taken from his grasp in the Tour of Spain last year, and he did say he thought about that, and that was one of the things that spurred him on and added impetus to his effort. But he's on the front there, and Kwiatkowski, it looks like, was in second position. They're just drifting off the front. It's not about attacking there, it's just about getting aero and staying safe right out front.
28.2 kilometres to go. It's the Tour of the Basque Country, and we are heading for Vitoria-Gasteiz. Tomorrow they stay in the same place, so if they've had a bit of a rest today on some of the wide open highways, as you can see, no rest, in fact no respite at the moment. The pace is up, and it's because we're on these last two peaks before the line. On this downhill, which is reasonably safe, we'll keep an eye and we'll take this brief break, and then we'll be back with you and maybe have a chat with some of you on Twitter. Welcome back. We've got a brief knockback, as you can see. Everyone is together, and they've all kind of agreed to let themselves have a bit of a toot on water, a gel, whatever it is you fancy. And so it is going to be a straight fight by the looks of things. Movistar just rallying and relaying themselves at the moment, just trying to stay with the pace. At the moment, if you get yourself at the nose, it's a comfortable place, I guess. On such a wide highway, there's a lot of options. This, strangely, could be a danger within the pack as everyone just gets in their colour blocks, because they want to be able to respond to anyone who goes for a break. And from this distance, it's not unheard of. 24.5. We're rolling nicely. We've dealt with one of our climbs today, and the last one beckons. Incidentally, tonight we will be with our cycling ambassador, our global ambassador, and aptly named Monsieur Le Monde. Greg is in the Eurosport employee, which is fantastic, and he'll be with us for most of the big events that are rolling in on Eurosport, your home of cycling. Of course, he will be our ambassador during the Tour de France and throughout, which is great. So, Greg, we're about to hook up with this evening for, I think, one of the first of our visits. Tonight, he's going to be showing us around his home in Minneapolis, the biggest city in Minnesota State, where Greg hangs out these days. I think he's probably given up his hunting parties after his shocking, near life-threatening injury that he suffered all those years ago. Anyway, he's fit as a fiddle, he's on good form, and he's part of the gang, which is great. So Le Monde of Cycling, the first episode, is tonight. Let's have a quick preview.
Welcome to Minneapolis. I'm Greg LeMond, and you're watching the first episode of Le Monde of Cycling. Come on in.
Well, there you are. We'll have more on that later on. He's got a big old house, hasn't he?
Certainly has. He's done well for himself, old Greg.
I know. It'll be the beer mat collection that's the highlight.
Of course.
I look forward to that. 22.4 kilometres. Don't forget, you can see that tonight. Just check your listings as to your national times, because apparently it does vary slightly. Alberto Contador just tucking in an old gel wrapper, or is he grabbing one? They have been told to sort of keep it tidy, which is great. And stick the old gel wrappers in your back pocket and carry it home with you. Why don't you? 22.1 to go. So, when's it going to go crazy?
Well, they're still gradually dropping at the moment. You can see they're travelling at speed, but with the bunch spread across all of the road, it looks like they're not actually going full bore at all. But in a couple of kilometres, the road will start to kick up. So at kilometre 176.8, we go through a little town called Trevino. And then the road starts gradually climbing. I think you can actually see the road up ahead that starts to kick up. But climbing up to 795 metres. Bearing in mind they're already on this plateau at around 600 metres. So not a great height gain on this final climb, but still significant enough near the top at 6.25% for, I think, a few attacks. And we can see there, look at the pink, or the fuchsia, green and blue combination of Lamprey Merida, set against the blue and navy blue of Sky and Black, and the green of Europcar. Three different little arrowheads, all looking after their respective riders. And I think you will see that Europcar looking after the interests of their Japanese national road champion and main man on GC, Mr. Arashiro.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, actually. Watch out for the Japanese flags. It heads for the line. Lamprey Merida, first time I've heard the word fuchsia used in reference to their kit, but yeah.
I think that is. I used to have a pair of fuchsia cycling shoes. It was Robert Miller who rode with them back in the late 80s.
Have you worn them yet? Or are you keeping that for fuchsia?
They're under wraps.
Sky on the left-hand side of the road, Cannondale on the right, so the inverse as you look back at them at the moment. There's a lot of ambition out here. Care to change your mind? You're sticking with Swifty?
I'm sticking with Swifty.
A good call. I'm going to stick with Calder Fernandez, even though I've not got a great deal of faith in my pick. Michael Matthews, though, I think it's going to be a Swift Matthews. I'm just trying to add something to the affair.
I tell you what, though, looking at the way Kwiatkowski sprinted yesterday, he pushed Swifty very, very close. I mean, Ben Swift came to that final corner, if you can remember, leading out, and then Kwiatkowski nearly came round him. But I think that'll obviously be fully aware, won't he?
He will. National jerseys to the fore. We've got Danes, we've got Japanese, we've got Finns in there somewhere. We've also got, of course, Rui Costa in the World Champions jersey. Lampe Merida, are they teeing him up for an early one? Well, they've certainly got to the fore just as we're going to start the last climb of the day. And so if he does fancy it, then it's nearly now. We are heading for Vitoria-Gasteiz, depending on whether you're Basque or Spanish, or indeed a bit of an interloper from France, who knows. But with 19.8 to go, they are going to start climbing. It may only be 5.36%, but it nasties out at the very last at 6.25, and so it will draw something, but we're waiting to find out exactly what. Philippe Gilbert, I think, he's had a few goes over the last few days, has he not? In fact, he's been busy this season rolling the dice from this kind of distance. Hasn't really paid off for him. Will he give up, or will he have another go? Let's find out. BMC is certainly working. There they are, left-hand side of your screen, in their familiar black and red. Is Gilbert going to have yet another go?
I think we'll see him up to the fore. It's certainly the sort of finishes that's going to suit him. There aren't any particular stages left in the race for him to show himself, so he'll definitely be looking at opportunities, and he'll be looking, I think, at one or two other riders who share similar physical attributes, and one of those is Rui Costa. But I think it won't happen for another couple of kilometres. Interesting to see Kevin Razor, number 138, near the front. Now he's been taken over. They're obviously looking after Arashira, who's finished very strongly, as with 8th place and a 12th place. So they're looking at defending him, and possibly, looking at trying to place him well for the finish itself. But again, you can just see by the pace they're not quite on the climb yet, but it's going to kick up in a minute. They're travelling there around 50-55 kilometres an hour, and very unusual to see 3 different arrowheads at the front of the bunch. But looks like there's not too much wind, hence the current formation of the bunch.
Through Trebinho with the invisible year, 18.4 kilometres to go. You're deep in the Basque country, and look at what they're sailing by here. Some lovely old stone buildings. Not a hint of an air conditioning unit on display, which is fantastic. We're high up in the mountains. The temperature today has been held around about 21 Celsius, so it's been extremely pleasant. It's about to get extremely nasty. Let's just hope everyone stays safe, because the pace they're carrying into this climb, believe me, is as nothing as when they come off it and the run into town. Let's just remind you about the roundabouts that we've got to deal with, and it's hell. From just after the 2k to go marker, they hit one, they've got to go straight round it. So a choice, presumably, unless it's penanted, of going either way. There will be a shorter way through it, unless you're a bunny hop king and you want to go straight over the top. You're going to have to choose left or right. Better choose correctly. After the Flamme Rouge, you've got another one. You've got to go straight over it. And then the final roundabout, which comes at about 480 kilometres, 480 metres, I beg your pardon, to go. You approach. If you're approaching at 6 o'clock, you exit at 11 o'clock on the clock. Okay, you got that? So there is definitely a shortest way round. It is the left-hand side that you need to take. Get that wrong, you're going to be way out of it. You may be forced to go that way, however, because it's going to be packed, we think.
It certainly is. Obviously, 3 roundabouts within the last 2 kilometres does mean that you're going to have to be at the front. If you're not in the first 10 or 15 riders, it's essentially game over. But I think crucially, Carlton, will some of these roundabouts be cordoned off so the riders can only take one side? I would suggest the final one, which is at essentially at 2 o'clock, will be. So if you get that wrong, it's game over. But with 400 metres to go and that final roundabout, it's all about positioning, but especially coming off a downhill finish as well. It's going to be super, super fast. We won't see the bunch spread across the road. We'll see one long, thin line of riders, no doubt led, I would imagine, by Team Sky, and also by the green and white jerseys of Arica Green Edge. But at the moment, It's Danny Pate from Team Sky getting as aero as he can. You can just tell that the climb isn't that steep because they're rolling on at some speed. And as we said, there's young Fernandez out the back of the group after a very brave day on his own, playing it solo.
There we are, back of the peloton. Yeah, I think we've got our clocks slightly mixed up there. If you approach at 6 at the bottom of the clock, you will exit at 11. There we are.
I had my piece of paper turned the wrong way, so apologies for our clock timings.
Always approach round about at 6 o'clock, and then you know which way to go.
There you go, kids, you heard it here first.
16.2 kilometres. Just in case there was any confusion, I thought I'd add some more. Sky, though, unconcerned, it seems, about the pace, and they're in sacrificial duty, and the man they're working for, of course, is Ben Swift, and he's looking like an absolute shoo-in today if they can just keep this going. But hey, guess what? Garmin Sharp have suddenly decided to join the party. I like this. Just bedding in on the right-hand side of the road, so left-hand side of the picture, you will see their blue with their red banner across their chest, and they're working for Coldo Fernandez, the Basque boy who can turn a gear reasonably quickly.
Without a doubt, he'll be wanting to show today. It's all about position, so the riders will be starting. Although these guys are professional, they know what they're doing. There will be some nerves knocking about because of the technical nature of this finish. But they've first got to get over the top of this climb, and it sits, as we say, not overly steep and tight, and Sky trying to keep the pace high to try and deter any attacks. And now it's Josh Edmondson. You can tell it's a warm day there. He's got his top unzipped. They're setting a really nice rhythm. Earlier on we saw 3 distinct arrowheads, and now there's just one, but it looks like Trek Factory Racing moving up the outside as well. Bobby Youngles.
Leader's jersey, Alberto Contador. It's not his day, but he'll work for Morkov today, the big Dane, and you see the red jersey of the Danish flag not that far behind. The leader's yellow jersey, which is not dissimilar to Tinkoff Saxo. But you can see as well, he's getting slightly ragged out of the saddle, so he's putting plenty in, keeping the pace up, and that's where they are on this climb. It's the major test of the day. It's only categorized 3. Why the major test? Because it comes so late in the day. They will peak with only 9 to go, and it's been a long one today, let's remind you. 194.5 kilometres in total, and look at the pace. They are climbing at the moment, remember.
Yeah, it's always, as I said to you before earlier on, it's difficult to hit climbs when you've been on the flat all day long. You use a different muscle group. Ironically, doing more climbs and hitting climb after climb, you do get into a rhythm. So hitting a climb, although this one is quite gradual, will be a bit of a shock to the system, but the best way to play it is right at a constant tempo, as we see the Omega Pharma Quickstep Arrowhead looking after the interest of the Polish national road champion and leader in the points classification, Michael Kwiatkowski, and it's none other than the world time trial champion, Tony Martin, on the front seat.
Yeah, one nice man to have there. Perfect on a day such as today. Tony Martin grabbing a handful of time yesterday, but making no inroads in the GC, but getting that stage when he's been craving for so long. The white jersey that you keep seeing just behind the...
maken wie dat gewonnen heeft. Gisteren was het een inzending via Facebook. En dat was Jeroen de Pauw. Het antwoord was Laurent Jalabert, die 5 keer op het podium stond.
The nice thing to do, Vasil Kirienko, who's a big engine earlier on, is at the back. You can see some others who've been burnt out today. Bruno Perez, not totally, you understand, but have done a proper job. Ryder Eschedal is there, sort of out of position at the moment if he wants to help Complo. We row through the furrowed and chalk fields, as you can see. Chalk gives it is a great basis on which to grow vines. There are some round here, but it generally tends to be quite rough, and it's the older grapes that they rely on. It has a sherry nature to it, but also produces extraordinarily strong wine, grown in extremis, about 14.5%. Don't drink a pint of it. Here we go then, 12.8 kilometres to go, and well, we mentioned Kirienko just a few moments ago. I think they are listening to us, which is nice. Still getting a bit of a kick going on, Josh Edmondson. Lead out today for Ben Swift. Last man standing will be Peter Kenyik, you can be sure.
Definitely, it's Javier Hondo on the front at the moment. On the left-hand side, it looks like looking after Ben Swift. But again, the tempo, it looks like it's quietened down. The gradient gradually ramps up as we get to the top of the climb. It starts at 4.5%, then gradually gets steeper. But again, nothing to worry these riders really, but definitely still steep enough to get an opportunity to attack. But the riders just setting a good tempo now. But of course, I did see young Josh Edmondson shake his head. He's done enough at the front. He'll drop back, but maybe giving him enough of a chance to recuperate and start to help with the lead out later on. But I think the main lead out guy for obviously Ben Swift will be young Peter Kenyon with that amazing turn of speed that he demonstrates so ably on those boards.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to have a trackman who's made that transition. And of course, the great Mark Cavendish did exactly that. Bradley Wiggins too, yes, I know. 12.2 kilometres to go. And still, they are very, very pacey on this climb. Remember, it is quite an incline as well. 5.36 is the average. Now, they're going to reach the crest of it with 9 to go. So we're nearly there. And then it's downhill into town before we get those nasty roundabouts that we were telling you about. So it's all beckoning. You don't want to change your bet for the day. I wouldn't blame you. Would you care to pick an outsider as well?
An outsider? I think Kwiatkowski. You never know. I mean, he's a very, very good bike handler.
Is it an outsider?
Well, okay, an outsider. Let me have a little think. Morkov.
There we are. Nice call. I like that. Yeah.
Morkov.
Yeah, I think Morkov's very much up for it as well. He'll be allowed off the leash as I think Alberto Contador is more than happy to finish within the pack today. Tomorrow he will be strutting his stuff along with Alejandro Valverde, sure. So yes, the Danish champion. Watch out for the red Danish jersey. I think that's a very good call. He's been looking protected, which is what you need on a day like this. 5.4%. We're nearly there, you know.
Look at who's on the front. It's Tony Martin. Epic day yesterday for the German, but looking after the interests of his team leader in the form of Michał Kwiatkowski, the talented Polish rider. Not riding today in his national Polish jersey. He's riding in the white jersey of points leader as we flip to the back, and that's Jens Vogt, the veteran. Oldest man in the race at 42 days and several hundred days, and also been joined by teammate Bobby Jungels. So there is some damage. There's some riders really feeling the pace today, and a rider of the calibre of Bobby Jungels being dropped does surprise me.
Yeah, very much so. Mr. Bo Jungels. There's a song there somewhere. 11.2 kilometres to go, and the shell out is really good and proper. I guess they've got to save something for tomorrow, because that's when the real stretch into the mountains comes. We've got so many peaks, and in fact 2 category 1s, 3 category 2s, and it's not short either tomorrow. 151, considering the profile that they're going to have to deal with.
Definitely, it's up and down all day long, and with the denouement coming with that really, really difficult climb. Again, although not a pure summit finish, we are going to see the GC contenders come out to play, and will Alejandro Valverde be able to dislodge Alberto Contador? We shall see, but there's a few other riders in the mix who are looking at that Amarillo jersey, and one of course is Mikel Nieve from Sky. Be interesting to see how he does tomorrow. Obviously double Giro stage win in the past on some of the most difficult stages, 3rd on the stage to in the Tour de France, one of the most difficult stages there, so really a man for the GC.
David Vieira looks like he's suffering just a little bit. Just relaying back on, I wonder if he had an issue a moment ago. He's picked it back up.
Yeah, it looks like he was caught behind a couple of riders, and if you don't get a good position, you can get distanced purely by the fact that you're sitting on the wrong wheel. Yeah. But although he accelerated sharply there, and he's looks like he's now getting dropped again, but it's still Tony Martin tapping out a really, really fierce rhythm here, and it looks like it's looking so comfortable, isn't it?
He is. 10.4 to go. Kwiatkowski just drifting into your view, as you can see, and hogging the view just a little bit. Contador staying extraordinarily safe. He's doing a fabulous job. Movistar, Gorka Izagirre is up here again. He's a good old stalwart. There he is, towards the front with that green M. And that is Tom Yelter Slakta, I think. Whoa, hello. That's Sarashiro.
That's not the biggest. He's going to be pretty unhappy with that. He looks like he's unshipped his chain.
Well, we were talking about touches of wheels, momentary lapse of concentration, and there you have it.
That's all it takes. You do need to concentrate, especially when you're on a climb. You're generally riding within far closer proximity. That's going to be difficult for Arashiro to get back on, because it's Tony Martin on the front, still with Kwiatkowski on his wheel. But hopefully there'll be some teammates who'll be on his race radio straight away. So his Europcar teammates will be fully aware of the situation and looking to drop back to pace their team leader back into the fold, all being well.
Tom Jelter-Slack is in a decent position here. He's done a good job of getting himself where he needs to be to stay safe and preserve just a little bit his position overall. 9.8 kilometers to go, and we are about 800 meters from the top. Notice that Alashiro was with David Malakani, or was it Sicard was with him?
It looked like it was Malakani or Sicard, but the difficulty thing is here, the peloton is starting to shred, and you've got large groups of riders becoming detached, and that makes it very difficult to chase and get back on. But a rider of the quality of Arashiro, he's in good form. I would imagine he will be able to maintain or get back to the bunch. That's going to take a lot out of him if he's looking to contend finish.
Very much so. Kwiatkowski looks like a very good bet today. Look at him, he's looking more than comfortable. As far as AG2 à la Mondiale are concerned, on protecting duties, I believe, for Jean-Christophe Perrault, who would you pick for them as a quick man today?
From AG2, it's difficult to say. You could be looking at DuPont or Montaguti, for example, but they haven't bought a team of pure sprinters. It's a team that are built around, initially, around Betancourt, and Perrault would have been a good lieutenant for Betancourt. As we go back to Arashiro, the whole team of Europcar drop back to pace their team leader on, so it's a bit of a battle for them at the moment.
Yes, it is. It was Belkin were also involved in that little tumble, so Europcar shared the displeasure, I guess, and indeed the bad luck. Over the final quick step, pick it up, and the drive is beginning with 9.1 to go. This is looking promising.
It certainly is. That's Jan Bakeland's on the front, the breakaway compatriot of Tony Martin. Yes, he's done what he needed to do. He's now dropped off. He's done his work for the day, but Bakeland's really setting a ferocious tempo as they go over the top of the climb.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is the white jersey of Kwiatkowski leading the points standings at the moment with 9 to go. There's your peak, and it's downhill from this point on. And if you've suffered on the climb because of the pace that's been put in, look at Europcar trying to make amends and drag Arashiro, who's clearly on form, back into a position. Such bad luck.
It was a really, really badly timed mechanical there, but they've done a good job. They have got him right onto the coattails of the peloton as they crest the climb. But those attacks that we thought would come didn't come. Such was the tempo set by Amiga Pharma Quickstep and initially Sky. They're still all together as they head towards the finish.
This then is going to be a dramatic one, because there's no escape at this point. Unless there's a knockback and people start playing cat and mouse, which I can't really believe will happen. Valverde's efforts yesterday to put a few seconds between himself and Alberto Contador, they don't want that to happen again, Tinkoff, Saxo, and so they would like a bunch finish. It suits them nice and tidily. We know Contador can descend beautifully, other members of his team as well. So with 75, nudging 75 kilometers per hour, this is going to be over before you know it. 8.1 to go. That gap, that distance is going to be eaten into, and it is. From distance, it looks like our mountain man. It's not, it's surely not Viella going off. No, there's a lot of Belisol having a crack.
Looked like Van der Broek there.
Yeah, does go long, and indeed, well, we were saying it may all stay together. They're driving into the corners here. They don't. I think this is nullifying a break, but it's stretching it out good and proper. Look at that. Well, it may well have neutralised any push away, but it's drawn out the descending specialist, Astana, joining the party here.
Definitely looked like it was that man, Jan Bakeland, clearly on form at the moment after his breakaway exploits yesterday, attacking that descent. It did look like the Lotto Belisol jersey of Jurgen Roelandts, the long, rangy climber from Belgium, having a bit of a go. Surprising to see him go on this descent. This descent looks very, it's a safe sort of descent. It's obviously got demarcations in the middle with the white lines. It's quite a main road, but it's one of those descents that you can take really quickly, sometimes not even needing to touch the brakes. But of course, these riders, expert bike handlers, and taking this descent really at such a pace. But I wouldn't want to be at the back of the bunch at the moment with that whiplash effect.
No, Morkov's being guided down here, and Alberto Contador is doing a fantastic job of just keeping him in a safe place at the moment. We've got 5 riders in danger of just causing a bit of a snap, but it's not happened, and they're just backing down yet again. 6.9 to go. It's going to be this sort of pace all the way to the line. We will have a sprint finish today. Don't count out Kwiatkowski. He's clearly on good form.
Definitely the fact that Amiga Pharma Quickstep rode at such a hard tempo deterred any attacks. They might have obviously had a bit of a communication, bit of a meeting. They'll know exactly the parcours and the demographics going down the final descent. And clearly Kwiatkowski feeling good, and obviously gave Ben Swift, one of the fastest sprinters around, a run for his money yesterday, that they think that they can snaffle the win today.
Well, we'll see. Michael Matthews and Orica Greenedge haven't really showed themselves at this point, or at least for a few minutes. They are in there, but they're probably at this pace, as we're looking at it now, about 50 or 60 metres back.
I think the reason that, or as we see, one of the riders coming to grief, it looks like an Amiga Pharma Quickstep rider has come off the side of the road. Fortunately, he is standing up, so he's okay, just about to get back on, but it's certainly his race over for today. But that just shows the danger. If you get these corners wrong, there is no margin for error at all, but it's just glad to see him standing up.
Was it Bakelent himself, actually? Not quite sure. We'll have a look, but as we're looking at the pack right now, Kwiatkowski is still in a very safe place. They're counting down. Let's have a look. Check behind, not looking at the road. Check behind, not looking at the road. Oh, it was.
Schoolboy error there. It did look like it was Bakelent just glancing over his shoulder as the road moved to the right-hand side. Fatal error there, but I'm just glad to see he's upright. But it just highlights the fact that you need to be super focused and concentrating all the time and just looking at the road ahead primarily.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't do that at home, kids, clearly. 4.8 kilometres to go, and just look at this. Well, this is going to be a tasty mess, I think you might say. Here we are. Let's just hope that nobody else gets it wrong. 3 roundabouts to take, don't forget, and the first of them is coming up fairly shortly. It's just, well, there are some that are off our map that they may have to deal with, but from 2 kilometres, there are 3 roundabouts to take as we come into town. That's at 4, and there they are, mobbing the road as we speak. It's anyone's game at the moment.
It certainly is. Amiga Pharma Quickset over the top of the climb, tried to get rid of a few of the sprinters. We'll see if Ben Swift is in there, and of course Michael Matthews. That's the reason I thought they took the pace up, and it's now Belkin riding on the front for their German sprinter, Paul Martins, who took a good top 10 yesterday. And that's clearly what they've got in mind at the moment, is trying to get something out of this race.
Yeah, Dave Tanner's doing a good job of staying within where he should be for Belkin. And suddenly Orica Greenedge show themselves dead centre, mostly white of jersey, as you can see. And Astana as well. Diachenko, who caused us a little bit of a worry earlier on, the Kazakhstan national champion. It looks like he was wearing the white jersey. It isn't. 3.1 to go. Here is one of the roundabouts that's not featured on our map, but have they got a choice? Yes, they have. So there is a short way round these, and
it's a 6 o'clock, 12 o'clocker.
It is a 6 and 12. There we are in cyclo code that we just invented. Also, Rui Costa is not that far out of this, but it's not him they're going to be thinking of. Danny Retto's boys are doing a super job here, and Cannondale are involved. Can he deliver? That would be a surprise to some, although he was called the other day. Will he be there? Oh, look who's being relayed on. Colin Fernandez is coming through for Garmin, and Tom Young-Teslack is helping out. So the men in the blue, dead centre of your screen, not wanting to miss out. Likewise is Tinkoff Saxo, and look for the big Dane. He's not going to be that far away, and I think he's just hoving into sight right now. That's Lotto Belisol Tosha and Sander, who's also here as well.
Definitely, look, there's now 3 distinct lead-out trains. You've got Belkin in the middle, in the green and black. You've got Amiga Pharma Quickstep on the left-hand side in the blue and the white, and the canary yellow and blue of Tinkoff Saxo, looking after the Danish national road race champion Michael Morkov, who is an exceptional sprinter on his day.
So, first of the last 3 roundabouts, if that makes sense. It is a 6 and 12er, yet again in at 6 o'clock, out at 12. Well, it looks like the clock's had a bit of Dali about it, slightly bent, but there you go. There was a defined way around it, so no advantage, except there has been a squeeze, and there are only 4 wide. So the first out of this roundabout are going to have a bit of an advantage, and BMC are there. Where's Philippe Gilbert? Is he in the frame for today? Just casting my eyes down, Gilbert is there. There he is. He's in P5 at the moment. In fact, Gilbert's already starting his attack. He's got sharing shoulders, by the looks of things, with Rui Costa in the rainbow jersey, and away they go. Gerrans is also there. Where's Michael Matthews?
Michael Matthews shouldn't be far away. Can definitely see Simon Gerrans there in the National Road Champions jersey in the white and green and yellow of Ulrika Greenedge, but it's Belkin still looking after Paul Martins, who was 5th yesterday.
Flamme Rouge, it is Paul Martins they're working for, and it's Nordhaug is doing a fine job of that, and they go around. They had a choice this time by 60 kilometers per hour, 800 meters. Don't forget, it will be at 450. That it gets very, very hairy out there. That's Brajkovic as well, the man who went so well on the Dauphiné all those years ago. Oh, that's a terrible corner to have to take at a moment such as this. And look how it's squozing just about everybody. And it's Gerrans that's picked it up here. The Australian champion is going for this one. Gerrans is going long. Just behind him is Michael Matthews. Gerrans and Matthews, and Swift is trying to get himself into position. Can't quite get there just for the time being. Swift for Sky is locked in this scenario. Will he? Has he got the power? Oh, who's going to deliver? Gerrans is doing his sacrificing job in the Australian national jersey, and he releases Matthews. It's Matthews versus Swift. That's what everyone wanted at the line. Oh, and it looks like, oh my goodness, the camera just fooled us for a moment there. And here he comes, and it is his day. Oh, you know what? There's no holding back Michael Matthews when he's in this kind of mood.
That was an absolutely superbly timed sprint. That's the second win of the year for the young Australian Michael Matthews. Timed that to perfection. Ben Swift also in the mix, but also a bit of a surprise from Europe car was Kevin Reza, who looked like he took second place. What a superb, exciting sprint.
Absolutely amazing, and equally as amazing was that Arashiro got up for that. Oh, after falling off, getting back on brought the Japanese flag to the line with pride, but hey, hats off, sombreros, whatever you want to call it, to both Simon Gerrans, who did the great sacrificing job, and Mickey Matt. Michael Matthews, bling ding, he delivered.
Definitely did. He'll be very, very pleased with that, especially after the victory in the Sky v Ulrika Greenedge Stakes. But superb victory, timed it to perfection. It was all about getting in the right position at the right time. The penultimate roundabout, they got to perfection. He came off the wheel at Gerrans at the right time and delivered.